right, so I'm currently on the phone with Ciara. She's another one of the musicians that reached out about the current interview series. So I'm going to go ahead and give her the chance to introduce herself.
Hey, everybody. My name is Ciara Mashea. I'm a singer, voiceover artist, and actor in Los Angeles, California. I'm originally from Michigan, so closer to where Alexander is. And I've been out here for about 3 years now and pursuing session singing, background vocal singing, and just the random voiceover jobs that I end up getting. But I do have an agent out here. My focus is animation for voiceover. So character stuff, a lot of characters. Disney is the goal, but that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Very cool. So I always kind of like to start in the beginning. How did you first identify and come to find music? And what did you find in it that really motivated you to continue to participate in it?
Awesome. The way I was introduced to music probably was through one of my very favorite singer-songwriters, Jewel. If you're familiar at all with 1990s folk music, then you know Jewel. So when I was little, I would watch commercials, and that was the first time I started singing. And actually, I started singing jingles to commercials before I could say the words. So I would just kind of like hum them, and my parents would look at me weird. And Jewel came on for a commercial for a local live show. And I just was mesmerized by her. My mom said I just dropped whatever toy I was playing with and just like couldn't stop staring. And I begged her to take me to the show. And we ended up going, and it was my first live show concert like that. And I just really look up to her entire musicianship, her story, everything about her really is inspiring to me. She started, from pretty much bare minimum rock bottom, and just really believed in her own self, and didn't let the world, materialism or anything else kind of get to her music. So I really identified with her lyrics. Growing up, I felt like they were just so meaningful and very just natural. I mean, it was almost effortless, it seemed like, for her to write songs that meant more than just, a kitschy like pop hook or something. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started in everything. And I started doing musical theater after that. And I was definitely that kid that like kind of didn't fit in anywhere. And I just was like always interested in being on stage. And for whatever reason, I felt most comfortable there. So that's kind of what got me into this circus.
Sure. So along those lines, did you kind of attempt to emulate her format, by writing poetry, playing guitar?
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of go into some description about how you started learning guitar. What was the motivation there, and then the process, and then how you kind of applied
Totally.
that to the creative process?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty much self-taught on guitar. I did have a couple of teachers growing up that taught me some basics and some theory, but I am pretty much self-taught, and I would literally just listen to what was played and pretty much just try to find the chords, and it ended up working out. But yeah, I'm definitely still kind of advancing in my actual instrumentation. I just ended up working a lot in the acting world and stage and even on camera stuff. I did a lot of that growing up, and taking singing classes. It's like you could just like go on with training all day and not really be able to be an expert at any one thing. And that's okay with me, but definitely I would write poems and I would try to, write melodies. I still do that to this day. I'm just like constantly putting some sort of voice memo in my phone, and sadly not returning to it for most of the time. But yeah, I definitely looked up to her. She started writing poems like before she was a songwriter. So I really was inspired by that. And I'm still motivated by written word and poetry. And I still do dabble in that myself, just for personal inspiration and motivation. But yeah, that's kind of like how I got into all of the live vocal stuff.
Sure. So you kind of touched base a little bit on what my next question would be. You mentioned that you do voice notes and then sometimes return to them, implying the fact that you do return to them for some of them. So what is your writing process like? And do you record your own stuff, and or do you work with like other producers or other musicians?
Yeah, I do work with other, mostly independent producers. In Michigan, when I was growing up, I had a uncle who was a really well-known jazz pianist, and he would have me come into the studio for anything that needed any sort of like kid's voice. So I would go into the studio and record stuff like jingles for commercials and local, television stuff. And that's like how I got my start in the studio. I actually have not really produce my own, front to back song ever. And that is something that I definitely want to do eventually. It's just kind of nerve-wracking when you're hired to sing everyone else's music all the time, you kind of like get used to it. You kind of like become comfortable in that arena, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Wait, am I as good?" Or "Wait, can I write that way?" Or like, "Do I have an audience like they have their audience?"
Hmm.
So yeah, I definitely have a lot of that going on. But as I get older, I literally have this itch to just like sincerely just get like an EP out or something, anything, and work with these musicians that I've come to know and love and that have hired me for their stuff. So yeah, but I do work with a lot of independent producers. I'm on this site called Sound Better, and
Hmm.
I work with producers on there. They will usually hire me for a lead vocal or background vocal, and sometimes more than that. But I produce it all out of my home studio here in LA. I record voiceover from my closet. My booth is what
Hmm.
I call my closet because it's basically not a closet anymore. um, and yeah, and I run Logic. I'm on Logic, and I've been teaching myself everything about that DAW, and recording my own vocals. It's just kind of like, you it's trial and error most of the
Hmm.
time for me.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's been great to like work with different genres of producers. I just work with this producer Christian Corsi, who he's an EDM pop producer, and his single Demon came out with my vocal on it. It was really fun to like hear myself in that way, because a lot of the
Hmm.
time I'm hired for like, oh, like a really straight pop, like super Taylor Swift.
Hmm.
That's what I'm hired for because my voice is super bright. But it was really fun to kind of like get into the drama of his lyrics and like really sit back in that tone and like kind of bring out another side. So
Sure, definitely. So along the lines of the session work that you do, or um, do you only do it through that website, or do you have are you approached your agent to do session work as well?
yeah, actually, my agent only reps me for voiceover work, and some of the time that does include recorded singing. It just depends on the job, really. Most of the session work that I do, either I find it myself or it's through word of mouth or referral. So I definitely would love to work getting more work through Sound Better, because I think it's a great way for musicians to like meet each other and kind of like, you have some sort of reliability with payment and like what the actual process of working with a producer could be. But yeah, I work with a few session singers here in town, and I just got a gig singing live background vocals for this band called Fast Times, and they play at the Whiskey a Go Go, which is like, legendary establishment.
Hmm.
And so I just sing basically background vocals for their 80s cover band there, and it's been really fun. But yeah, since COVID, it's been interesting. Like, I have been hired for work and it's totally recorded from my own booth. And I think I would have not gotten the job if I didn't have my own booth. So I haven't even gone into a studio yet to record anything. It's just been from home at this point. So it's like I'm kind of excited for the day where, I don't
Hmm.
know, it's me and a few other singers and we're contracted for a job and we have to go into studio for it. So, hopefully that day comes.
Sure. So, in regards to your own music and your own project that you want to eventually release, are you kind of intimidated by the process of doing your own recording and playing your own instrument and then producing yourself, or are you just kind of waiting for the right time? I suppose my question is like, what's the hesitation?
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's poignant that you're getting to the meat here, Alexander. I definitely have hesitation just in my own ability. I'm around like really talented folks over here, and I did not go to music school. I went to basically business school, and I
Mhm,
also concentrated in media, so video editing and like random things. I feel like I definitely lack the skill to confidently produce from, front to back my own EP or album or whatever.
mhm,
But, now that I'm kind of settled here in LA, I know plenty of people that I would really trust to, help me out with that. And
mhm,
I think it's really just like, sitting down with a co-writer or like sitting down with someone who can arrange some of this for me and like just going to town and having fun and being open with it. And
mhm,
I definitely plan on doing that. I feel really lucky to be surrounded by like a lot of honestly very supportive musicians. Like I feel like I for some reason like missed the boat of like self-indulgent LA musicians. And I'll probably find them
mhm.
in my time here, but yeah, I definitely have found some really great, even just singers that like kind of started where I was, where, maybe they didn't go to music school or they didn't, get a degree in a certain conservatory program or something.
Mhm.
And, they still did it. And maybe, they're in their 30s and they're still doing it. And I love that. So, um, yeah, anyway, that's kind of like the plan is to eventually just unleash my inner thoughts and melodies to the world and, not be bashful about it.
Sure, you definitely should. I think anybody that has the idea to try to do it should, just do it. You have very little to lose by just trying. Um,
Totally.
so, was your decision to move to Los Angeles focused around music and then trying to establish a career in the broader entertainment industry?
So I moved to LA from New York. I spent 8 years in New York, and I really thought that my life would be on Broadway and like off Broadway and doing the musical theater thing.
Okay.
Um, and I started, waiting in the lines and doing those auditions, and they're really like not. They're not friendly for, I literally say they're not, that's not a friendly lifestyle for poor people because you like, you have your waitressing gig or your bartending gig, right? And those calls are like 5 in the morning and you have to wake up and stand in the darkness in the freezing New York City like weather, and like you just got off your shift at 1, so like you're literally not sleeping. And I did that for a second and I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I just like randomly got into a voiceover class and I got an agent from that class, which is very rare. And I didn't
Mhm.
really realize how rare that is until some of my friends told me. And voiceover just really took off for me. And so the last couple years in New York, I was really thinking about moving here for voiceover.
Mhm.
And LA has a really extensive, animation industry here with Disney, Pixar, all that stuff. So
Mhm.
so yeah, I predominantly moved out here for that. And then when COVID hit, I mean, everything shut down. It was kind of a mess, and a lot of my friends went back home, and I was like so determined to not have to do that.
Mhm.
And so eventually, I started looking into session singing because I used to do recorded work all the time in Michigan, and not so much in New York because of school and stuff. But
Mhm.
yeah, I started working with this group of really wonderful singers. They're called the Empowered Singers, and they do this series called Empowered Singers Workshop. And I
Mhm.
really, if any singers are listening to this, I really, really recommend checking them out. You can just Google Empowered Singers. And Felice and Celia are the people that head that up, and they literally did a make your own vocal demo workshop. And so I was very comfortable editing myself from the very beginning, but they like even gave me more tools to use to make my voice sound really great. And
Mhm.
just basic producing, for vocal. And so I did that. I made a reel. I sent it to some contractors here, and I got a really positive response over COVID. Like nobody's working, nobody has anything.
Mhm.
Um, And I was shortlisted for a couple of like national commercials, a global commercial. It was crazy. It was insane. And I just felt like, wow, maybe this is what I should try to do too.
Hmm.
And so I find a lot of fulfillment out of it. It's really fun and challenging. And, I'm definitely still working on my sight reading skills and my theory skills, but
Hmm.
I really feel confident that I could possibly have a future in that full time as well.
Sure.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you.
thank you.
You kind of mentioned that you're doing session work and then you're building up the nerve to actually get started on your own project. But is there any other project that you're participating in right now that you do want to make sure is known?
Sure. Well, if you're listening and you think that anything I have to say is interesting, you can find me on Instagram at Ciara Mashea, Ciara Ciara, and Mashea like paper mache. I post like all my antics there, and I'm trying to post more about. Oh, I get a lot of DMs about like how do you get into voiceover? Get them all the time. So if you are interested in voiceover, you can send me a DM. But yeah, I right now I am in the midst of holiday caroling season in LA. So I've got like a trillion million Christmas and, like holiday music medleys I have to learn in the next week.
Okay.
And just singing locally for that stuff. But yeah, I'll be singing background vocals at least once a month every Monday for Fast Times Band at the Whiskey. If anyone listening is in LA and wants to come check out Fast Times, it's a really great 10 o'clock show on Monday nights. And
Awesome.
other than that, just like literally working with musicians and just kind of getting to know everyone here has been a real treat and honestly a blessing because these people have been through a lot and it's just awesome to get to know them.
Awesome. What are some of your favorite memories of participating in music and, things that have happened to you surrounding it that have made an impact on you?
Yeah, geez. Well, I remember the very first musical theater show I was ever in. It was the worst Christmas pageant ever. And it's like, I don't even know. I'm pretty sure it's a published play. I'm not really sure who it's by, though. Um, and I was a baby angel. And I literally remember, like, at 6 years old, getting to go on stage as a baby angel. I was so pumped. And I was the shyest, quietest kid. Like you could not get me to talk. I was afraid to like go to Christmas parties with my family because I was just so intimidated by people. Um, and man, I got up there and we had to sing Jingle Bells and I literally like let loose. I remember just loving that as a kid. And I think like the other thing that comes to mind probably is the time I was like 12 or 13 and I was a Radio Disney Pop Squad member out of Detroit and we got to tour with like there's some random people. Aaron Carter, we got to open for. We got to open for Raven Simone, and like if you grew up at all in the '90s, like that, all the Disney shows, like that was like you've made it. So yeah, I like that was crazy performing with them and one of Raven's concerts. I think it was like 13,000 people. It was outdoors. It was huge. And I mean, like going on stage and singing to that many people at that age is like ridiculously nuts. And I had no idea what I was doing, but it's funny looking back that I did that.
Yeah, that's a cool story.
Yeah.
Awesome. You kind of mentioned your Instagram. Do you have any other social media or website or anything where people can check you out and see what you're
Yeah.
working on?
Yes, you can go to my website. It's ciaramashea.com. And again, that's Ciara, like paper mache.com. And I have all my singing reels up there. I have some acting stuff and a lot of voiceover. So if you are listening and you need a voice teacher and you're specifically looking for someone that can sing a lot of variety of music, I was classically trained, but I do sing a lot of genres. Feel free to find me on takelessons.com and my profile's up there. But yeah, feel free to message me anytime if you're interested in any of the things that I said.
Perfect. And so I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last words. So just a message that you kind of feel you resonate with.
Love that. Well, I have a Maya Angelou quote on my wall. I'm one of those people. It's basically reads to allow kindness and humor into your heart, no matter how dark the world can get. And I feel like as a artist or a musician, that resonates with me because you can get caught up in the moment and compare yourself, or be hesitant or not take that leap and risk. But just try to bring gentleness into your life as much as you can, and be gentle to yourself, because like this is a real gift that we get to do this. So that's probably my last words.